Let me get to my guest, William McKinley, Deer Program Coordinator, Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. Morning, William. How are you, sir? Thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome, Paul. Good morning to you. Happy to be here.
When's the last time you were out in the woods?
Well, it was actually Sunday afternoon. So I actually did something I haven't done. I moved to this little spot a few years ago, and I managed to harvest a mature buck on my own property.
How about that?
And a 6-year-old buck on 20 acres, and so I'm riding on cloud nine. So,
How about that? You know, a lot of times it's got to be tough. You know, people who want to become a game warden and do this, and there's some incredible folks, but you've got to be in the game as an officiating person when you want to play the football game, and you just have to sit and watch it, and sometimes that's the toughest thing to do.
It can be. We do work a lot this time of year, and my passion is what led me to this profession. A father that got me involved very early on when I was just big enough to walk, and but I love what I'm doing. Love trying to help take care of this deer herd across our state.
How young were you when you made this decision? Did you do this in school or high school or college?
I was actually in college working on an engineering degree and made a decision that I was doing it simply so I could buy land to be outside a lot, and figured, hey, why don't I do something that I will actually be doing what I love? So
how about that?
Yeah. 2 years into engineering school, might have lost a little of those. Might have lost a scholarship or two along the way, but anyway.
You know, the master deer hunter, our producer Lance and I were talking. Lance is a big deer hunter also. And, man, we've had some nice-sized bucks killed this year. But just to give an evaluation where you think, as the deer program coordinator we are now at this point of the season, looking back to the summer when we were getting information from you guys in PR saying, can you spread the word that we need to take a few more deer this year? So what's your evaluation of where we are at this deer season?
So our data is anecdotal. We don't have a reporting system in Mississippi for deer harvest, but the anecdotal data we're getting from hunters, from processors, from taxidermists, harvest is up. And there have been some outstanding bucks harvested this year. And if we back up about 5 years ago, 5 and 6 years ago, to when these deer were born, the year they're born in, environmental conditions and the overall health at that point, it carries through the rest of their life. So these deer were born into nice, milder, wetter summers. They had not terribly cold winters to deal with, and conditions were great when they were born, and it has carried right up to now. These really nice antler deer are 5 and 6 years old. So
I think when we have extreme weather, and we've had with the floods and certainly affecting the Mississippi River area, and therefore affecting a lot of places across the levee to the east of that. But in this past summer, the problem was the lack of rain. How did that affect the deer population?
So it certainly appears to have affected the fawn crop, Paul. Antler growth on the bucks was really not affected because the drought started kicking in really in July, August. And antler growth, well, it finishes up in August, and then the antlers go through a hardening. Now, overall herd health appears to be down. The body weights I'm looking at on properties throughout central Mississippi, certainly those body weights are lower than what they have historically.
Has the information on any velvet antlers coming in helped you guys research or told you anything at all?
Certainly, it gives us another little snippet of data. The total there is a few hundred deer out of the state licensed hunters harvested last year, around 270,000 deer in the state. So it's a very small snippet of the total harvest. But it gives us some early data, and it also provided a great opportunity for hunters to get a unique trophy out there and go ahead and get some venison if they chose.
Yeah.
So.
It's good that we put that in. Do you foresee any changes in that in the future years?
I don't. I don't foresee it continuing right on along. It is well accepted. It is a time of year when a lot of hunters choose not to be in the woods because it is hot. But for those that choose it, deer movement is predictable, and it carries a relatively high success rate.
Yeah. I think the number one thing that we've battled with for so long in this state, and as long as I've been on the air, it's been a battle year after year, is dog hunters versus non-dog hunters. And it doesn't let up. Yes, sir.
Our officers get a lot of complaints on bad apples. So I would like to clarify that dog hunting, pursuing deer with hounds, when done properly, is a sport that's been in our state for decades since we opened a deer season, and is a very effective and honestly a very fun way to hunt. But bad apples, running across other people's land, shooting across land that doesn't belong to them, public road settings, certainly our officers get a lot of complaint calls about that.
I was going to say, I grew up as a dog runner. My dad, this is Lance, Mr. McKinley, and my dad would drop me off. We had a few thousand acres in the club in Issaquah County. He'd drop me off with the pack of beagles that I fed and took care of every day. Got home from school, took care of them, loved those babies. We bred them until we got them to Yellow Creeks. And, man, let me tell you, I would walk thousands of acres and run those dogs. That was the most fun in the world. But then you had to track them down all over Issaquah and Sharkey County because, they don't know where the boundaries are.
True,
buddy,
true.
We would come across some places that you were just hoping these guys didn't have your dog, because it was – you get out in the woods. And that's my question to you is, how far do deer – generally travel? What is their radius that you would say is natural for deer habitat?
Good question, and that's been researched a lot over the years. Does, as a general rule, are around 400 to 600 acres they cover in a year's time. Bucks are around double that on any particular piece of habitat, so around 1,000 or a little more. But every adult buck in the study that Mississippi State had radio college, every one of them during the rut or either early or right after it would take an excursion. And that excursion quite often was 5 to 10 miles linear. He'd just take off. He would head off looking for a doe. He might find one here, then he picks up another scent, and he's gone for a few days, and then he comes home. Goes right back to his core little area there that he's living, but they move across the landscape a lot more than what people realize, and that's what makes hunting so fun. You just never know. When I'm hunting my 20 acres, that a deer from 4 miles away may come walking through.
Just take off after the rut and then come back, and just there's a couple of guys I know named Bubba. Not much different than that.
I got a chocolate lab named Bo, and he loves to skedaddle on a beeline too.
I hate to turn the conversation into something negative, but let's talk about CWD, and there's a big meeting coming up, and we'll talk about that too when we come back with William McKinley right after. William McKinley, Deer Program Coordinator, Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. Let's talk about this, the CWD, and where's the meeting, and what's this about?
So the meeting is tonight at 6 p.m. at the West Harrison High School Gymnasium, and we welcome attendees. I'll be speaking, giving a update, informational type update on chronic wasting disease. We do plan to record this meeting. We did, unfortunately, Paul, have our first CWD detection in South Mississippi. This is never something we want to find. It is a threat to the way we manage deer and a threat to our deer herds across the nation. It's now 32 states have found it, and we have detected it in 13 counties now. So not something we want to find, but the reality is we're learning to manage deer herds with CWD.
Yeah. So what do you do after you find this? What rules or implementations are put into effect from this one, as far as how do you address this?
So initially after finding, we will first confirm that the positive is there, which we did with several subsequent tests when it's in a new area, such as we did with this one. So we sent it to We got it tested 3 times in Mississippi, sent it to Ames, Iowa, then actually run a third type test on it to confirm it. But rules include a CWD management zone. That's on our website now. That zone can be seen. It covers portions of Harrison and Hancock counties. Then there are zones in North Mississippi, as the disease is much more prevalent there. Hunters within those zones cannot transport an entire carcass, or the meat has to be either deboned or quartered. No head and spinal cord. That's where the prions mostly are, the highest load in the animal. And they can't transport that out of that zone. And they also, supplemental feeding is banned inside that zone.
Yeah. William, was there a date back when I started deer hunting many, many years ago? You never heard about this. Was it there? We just didn't hear about it?
You know, Paul, that's a good question. And was it there? In some places, yes, but it is spreading. And we know that when we find the disease, it didn't get there yesterday. So there's some truth to it has been there. However, Benton County, Mississippi was one of our most tested counties in the early 2000s, and we never detected CWD.
Oh.
This year, 1 in 3 bucks in Benton County, Mississippi is testing positive. So the disease is rapidly spreading, and that follows the same trend that other states have found, such as West Virginia, Arkansas. Yep. It continues to spread. It's getting to new areas, but it does take a while to find the disease. You figure if there's 15 to 20,000 deer in a county and one deer has it, what's the odds of us actually sampling that deer? It's pretty low.
Any advice from you as the deer program coordinator as far as what a hunter needs to look at as after harvest?
Well, unfortunately, there are no symptoms for most of the deer because it's a long incubation period. So the deer will have the disease for a year and a half, and even in a few deer, a smaller percentage may have it for multiple years, shedding it on the landscape and not show any symptom. Once the symptoms begin, the holes form in the brain, and the deer begins to forget to eat, and it basically locks down. It loses its sense of smell. It usually goes blind, and it rapidly decreases. That's the wasting part. But unfortunately, most of the deer walking around with CWD look perfectly fine because they're not in that clinical phase yet. So my advice is we've got drop-off locations and participating taxidermists all over the state. Get your deer tested.
Almost like anorexia. The body just shuts down as far as the food's concerned. Any concerns from the consumer as far as the venison?
Well, all the major health organizations recommend you do not eat a positive animal. So we leave it at that. We are not food health experts at the Department of Wildlife. We manage wildlife. We repeat what they say. And they recommend do not eat a positive animal. No confirmed human cases, and we hope it stays that way.
Well, it's a little scary, though. I mean, is there a way for a hunter who kills a deer, maybe because it's the terrain that he's feeding on the hot summer and everything else, but it's a little bit skinnier than normal, they're concerned about it. What can they do?
Well, they can certainly turn a sample in for testing, and those sample results generally take 2 to 3 weeks.
Wow.
So
just go on and process the deer. You have to process the deer and then wait for the final results, right?
Yes, normally. Yeah. So although I typically hold my deer on ice for up to 2 weeks anyway before I process them, that's what I've always done. So, but in some cases, they will have to process the deer first and then find out. And typically, we call everyone personally that has a positive. We've had 44 so far this year. So people learn their sample result is negative by looking on our website. They learn it's positive by getting a call from our agency.
You know, one thing, William, especially in the section of the wildlife, fisheries, and parks that you're in as far as program coordinator, you live and die by data. You want as much data as possible. And we have greater means than ever. We have a computer in our pocket while we're deer hunting in a smart device. Are there things that you would like to see that would enhance that other states are doing, and we could probably get more data to you?
Well, Paul, I do stress that we're the only state out there that hunts big game that does not have some type of mandatory reporting for our general gun season. And that data would be very helpful. For instance, we're hearing from hunters in Benton County that they're not seeing as many deer, not harvesting as many deer. We know CWD shortens lifespans. People are finding dead deer carcasses on the landscape in North Benton County. We've got that report. But we can't measure harvest in Benton County. So we gain a statewide estimate through a phone survey, but other states have, when you harvest a deer, you've got to register that deer immediately, and we have that for wild turkey. I do encourage, I will tell hunters we need that data statewide. So
yeah. It's never been easier to do that. Someone who's doing something illegal is not going to do it one way or the other, but thank God the vast majority of our people in our state are legal hunters, so that's good news.
Mm-hmm. That is true. We've got some of the best hunters. You know, take the DMAP program, the Deer Management Assistance Program. It was born right here in Mississippi as a project through Mississippi State and our agency. Over in Kemper and Knoxville counties is where it originated. It's been copied by practically every state that's got white-tailed deer in some manner or another, and that homegrown, a lot of strong deer research coming out of our university there. So,
the Wildlife Fisheries and Parks had talked about maybe thinning the herd a little bit. Is the number of deer up, or do you know, as far as harvested?
We don't know if the total number, and we'll not know if the total number harvested is up or not until we do our phone survey which is generally May-June timeframe after turkey season, and it captures all data. Without having a reporting system, we don't have daily or weekly totals like other states do. But we trust that hunters are taking a few more deer within their legal bag limit, and that our estimates have shown that the population was at or near a record high for the past couple of years. And
how about that?
So,
good.
A lot of deer out there, Paul.
I know that when we had my friend Len Posey on not too long ago, we talked about the employment as far, and there was a big job market held too from all facets of staff positions and everything else within the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. But if you're a young man or young woman out there and you're thinking about the outdoors and everything else, I believe that William McKinley would say, come take a look at it, because it's a heck of an opportunity.
It is a wonderful job, and while I don't get to play in the woods quite as much as I used to, something about a computer and all that data we collected, we got to do something with it now. But it is still a wonderful job, and puts us all over the state working with great landowners and wildlife and property managers. So
just like, well, you guys need to push for this in the world of post-pandemic, is at least one day a week or something to work from home. You should have one day a week work from woods. But then again, you do that already. So thank you, man. Appreciate it. Very good. And Merry Christmas to you and the family.
Merry Christmas to you, Paul.
You got it. William McKinley, Deer Program Coordinator, Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries.